ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणं मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवती अष्टादशाध्यायिनी अम्बा त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणी। नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमय प्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्स सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत्। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। भीष्मद्रोणतटा जयद्रथजला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्याग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी सोतीर्णा खलु पाण्डवैरननदी कैवर्तक केशवः पाराशर्यवचः सरोजममलम् गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटम् नानाख्यानकेसरम् हरिकथा सम्बोधना बोधितम् लोके सज्जन षट्पदैरहरः पेपीयमानं मुदा भूयाद् भारत पंकजं खलिमल प्रध्वांसिनः श्रेयसे मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्त्वैः वेदैः साङ्गपदं क्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगा ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तं न विदुः सुरासुरगणाः Devaya tasmai namaha.
To day 6 of the Gita Week Discourses. Each day, Sri M.K. Angajan covers central themes from our sacred scriptures, the Bhagavad Gita. For those of you who subscribed and tuned in to the YouTube Live last night, the main theme that was covered was the spirit of giving. For me, this was an eye-opener, as the concept of charity generally refers to material items such as money, food, shelter, etc. However, we now know that charity operates on 4 different levels, starting at the baseline with material charity and moving up to the highest form of moral charity. Thus, we need to all aim to give with humility and receive with gratitude. Please stay tuned for the announcements at the end of this discourse, as I will be sharing with you some methods in which you can receive free learning material for you and your loved ones to benefit from. So it was with great pleasure that I welcome our esteemed Guru, disciple of Swami Parthasati and founder of the Life Mastery Foundation, Sri M.K. Angajan.
Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastuma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Welcome back. Prahalada was one of the greatest devotees of Lord Vishnu. Single-pointedly focused and devoted to Vishnu. Prahalada, I'm sure you're all familiar with the story, was born to the demon king Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu, being a demon, was so conceited, so self-centered, because he had won a boon from Shiva, Lord Shiva, that he is immune to many of his enemies. Some of his boons that he received from Lord Shiva was that he cannot be killed neither day nor night. neither inside the palace nor outside the palace. Neither man, woman, beast, or God can kill him, and no weapons can injure him or affect him. That was the boon that he received. So he was almost invincible. As a result, Hiranyakashipu was so conceited, and his son Prahalada being a great devotee. Now, how did he become a great devotee of Vishnu? Because during when he was still in mother's womb, he heard the discourse from Narada. Those days they have conceived that the learning education starts during pregnancy itself. All right. Anyway, so Prahlada learned about the Vishnu while he was in his mother's womb. So after he was born, he was so devoted, single-pointedly focused upon Lord Vishnu, which Hiranyakashipu did not like it. That is his father. So Prahlada's father wanted him to worship him instead of any other deity. That was his conceit, arrogance. So, since Hiranyakashipu did not like this idea, he tried every tricks under the books to kill Prahlada. But nothing worked. All sorts of things he tried. He tried to give him poison. He was protected. Elephants were made to trample on him. Young boy, he was protected. He was put in a room along with poisonous snakes, deadly poisonous snakes. He was protected. He was thrown from a valley deep into the abyss. He was saved. Everything that he survived because he single-pointedly focused his devotion. Vishnu protected him. Finally, Hiranyakashipu's sister was Holika. She had a boon that she's immune to fire. Fire cannot affect her. So Prahlada was made to sit on Holika's lap, and they set ablaze. But the story goes, Holika got burnt and killed. Prahlada was protected. This is one of the age-old stories that a lot of you there know. Now, we can draw a lot of spiritual values and meanings from this story. But one of the things that we need to understand is that our spiritual sadhana in the form of devotion, that is bhakti, is a defense mechanism. Bhakti is a very often used word in our religious parlance. It's one of the most used words among the religious spiritual lobbies. Perhaps one of the most misunderstood, misconstrued practice, not only in Hinduism, even in other faiths. So, what exactly is devotion? What exactly the meaning of the word bhakti? Some of the misconceptions about bhakti or devotion is that they believe that when you engage in prayers and rituals, devotion, it influences God's decision. Does devotion or religious practices, does it influence God's decision? It doesn't. If it was so, all of us can do it and our life will be changed. Another set of people believe that when I'm devoted to God, when I pray, when I engage in my rituals, you can win favors from God. A lot of people are devoted to God because they believe that by being devoted to God, we can win favors from God. That doesn't happen either. By being devoted to God, by engaging devotions and prayers, it will not influence God's decision at all. In fact, God doesn't decide anything. It is your action that determines your success or failure, welfare or otherwise. If that is the case, if by we engage in elaborate rituals and prayers and pilgrimages, etc., it doesn't influence God in any way, it doesn't influence God's decision in our favor. If we can't win favors from God, then what's the purpose of these rituals? You got to understand this very carefully. It is a big misconception among devotees. As a result, a lot of them go through a lot of fear. That, oh, I did not perform this particular ritual or puja or havan, therefore God will be angry with me, God will be against me. Some people do those rituals motivated by fear and insecurity. What you need to understand is that if there is anything that you need not be afraid, is God. If God is something to be afraid, I don't think that is the purpose of religion. Then what is the purpose of rituals, prayers? What is the purpose of devotion? The purpose of devotion, ladies and gentlemen, when you pray, when you engage in religious practices and prayers and rituals, etc., it changes your mood. It changes your thinking. It changes your attitude. It transforms your expectations. When prayers, definitely, the rituals and prayers and pilgrimages definitely have an impact on your mindset, your mood, your attitude. And when you make the right decision, with the right mood, right attitude, you are able to perform the right action that will bring you favors. I repeat, the purpose of prayers and rituals is not to influence God, not to win favors from God, not to bribe God. It is to change your thinking, change your attitude, change your mood, change your expectation. That is what is actually bringing us misery and challenges. It has an impact, and it has been proven scientifically, the impact of prayer. I will give you an instance. This experiment was done in India, Indian Institute of Medical Sciences. It was also done in America. Two sets of patients were suffering from same illness, same disease. And two of them were given same medical treatment. Everything the same. But one set of patients were given something extra. They were made to pray to their God of their understanding. They were given to learn to chant the mantras. Mantras are the Vedic hymns. They were made to listen to spiritual discourses like this. And subsequently, weeks later, they found the treatment or the cure upon the patients who were exposed to prayers, ritual, chanting of the mantras, spiritual discourses, etc. The cure was much faster, much deeper. It cured them compared to the other people. So these prayers and rituals are not based on superstition. They are not unscientific. They are deeply scientific based, provided you understand it and practice it the way it is meant to be practiced. Not based on fear, not based on superstition. In fact, many so-called custodians of religions encash, monetize, abuse the sense of devotion to God. They take advantage of the gullible so-called devotees by infusing fear. So you got to understand what exactly is devotion. That is what some of the verses in the Bhagavad Gita, we're going to hear from no less than a person like Lord Krishna himself from his verses. Some people are so particular, driven by fear, that you have to use this particular rice, that particular turmeric, this particular water, that particular leaf. All that is fine. But then what matters is not what you do, but how you do those things matters. Let us listen to one of the verses from the Bhagavad Gita. That is the 26th verse of the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. One of the oft quoted verses expressing what is devotion. In fact, many people quote this verse. Let's read the 9th verse of the 26th verse of the 9th chapter.
Patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhaktya tupahritam ashnami prayatatmanaha.
The 26th verse of the 9th chapter reads, Patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati. Meaning, whosoever with devotion offers me leaf, flower, fruit, water, that devout offering of the striving self I accept, says Bhagavan Krishna. Whosoever with devotion, what matters is, he says, bhaktya means with devotion, offers what? Simple things. He doesn't ask anything extravagant. He says, patram, leaf, pushpam, flower, phalam, fruit, and toyam, water. They are all symbolic. Offer them with devotion, bhavana, sincerity, not with ego and selfishness. Such offering, God says, I will accept. So if you are truly devoted, it shouldn't really matter that if you are short of one ingredient, you really need to go through fear. Oh, I did not have that, therefore my prayer will be ineffective. No such thing. What matters is your attitude, your intention, your motive. either bhavana, devotion, or sincerity, that is what will determine the impact of your devotion or prayer. Now, leaf of a tree, as you know, is one of the most active part of a tree. So he says, leaf symbolizes offer your actions. Whatever activities that we do, offer it to him. Pushpa means flower. Flower symbolizes our vasanas. Offer our vasanas and desires at the altar. Fruit. In fact, almost every devotee who goes to the temple, they carry fruit or flower, or sometimes fruit and flower. What does that flower and fruit mean? Flower symbolizes our desires, vasanas. Fruit symbolizes the effect of our karma, the effect of our action. Fruit symbolizes the sum total, the resultant effect of all our actions. Fruit, as you know, is a product of the tree, and inside the fruit there is seed inside, and seeds inside the fruit are producer of future trees. So the fruit symbolizes your personality, your karma. So you are at the moment a product and the producer at the same time. You are a product of the past. At the same time, you are the producer of the future. Just as the fruit is product of a tree, at the same time, it is the producer of future trees. You are the effect of your past actions, past thoughts, desires, emotions, and actions. At the same time, you are the producer of the future action. So your present choice, present actions, present thinking will determine your future. That is symbolized by offering fruit at the altar. So the fruit symbolizes your karma. Water is a purifier, cleanser. So you offer all this, as you know, in every prayer, in every havan, you offer water, it's a cleanser. To offer all this with a purity of mind, without ego and selfishness. So what matters is, it is not what you do, but how you do it. Among the devotees, there are 3 types of bhaktas or devotees. I would call them the 3 names. They are, the first one is the idol worshipper. Idol, I-D-L-E, idol worshippers. What do the idol worshippers do? They carry a misconception that there is a phantom called God sitting in the clouds catching cold and deciding our destiny and future. They believe that it is God that is deciding everything, my fortune or misfortune. So they engage in prayers and rituals driven by fear and superstition. But they don't do anything. They don't put in any effort. They just pray. Remember, prayer without effort is superstition and fanaticism. Another set of people put in a lot of effort, no devotion, no prayer. Effort without devotion leads to arrogance and ego. Prayer without action is superstition, fanaticism. Effort or action without devotion leads to ego and arrogance. So there has to be a blend of both. So the idol worshippers believe that if I do a particular prayer, in fact, they don't even pray directly, they outsource prayer. They invite a priest, a pujari, a guru to conduct their prayer. And they believe that you give him his fee and bring all the ingredients that he asks you to do, and he does the prayer. It doesn't work like that. You cannot hoodwink God like that. So a lot of idol worshippers do this. The second set of devotees are the idol worshippers, IDOL. What do the idol worshippers do? They believe God is in a particular form. They believe that God is in the shape of Lord Ram or Lord Krishna or Hanuman, Krishna or Hanuman. Or they believe God is in the form of Jesus Christ, or God is in the form of crescent or cross. All those are simply symbols. The idol worshippers develops a fanatic attachment to a form, a symbol, an idol, without understanding the meaning and purpose behind the idol. The idol represents an ideal. Idol is not the ideal. Idol is a logo, is a symbol, a form that represents the formless God. Then why do we use idol? Because we cannot conceive God, we cannot see God, we cannot feel God. It's unknown. We need a known symbol to understand the unknown God, unknown ideal. So when you see the symbol, you are supposed to conceive the formless ideal beyond. Just as you have your photograph of your grandfather. That is simply, that photograph is constituted of wood, glass, and paper. That's it. That is a symbol, represents your devotion, your reverence to your grandfather. So when you look at the photograph of your grandfather, it incites a feeling of reverence to your grandfather who's no more, let us say. So grandfather is the ideal, the photograph is the idol. Similarly, there are so many idols in every religion. In Hinduism, in Islam, in Buddhism, in Christianity, any isms for that matter. Those idols are only representing the ideal, but certain set of devotees don't understand this science. And they develop a fanatic attachment to the form. And when they develop a fanatic attachment to a symbol or a form, they develop antipathy, hatred, animosity toward those people who worship anything else. One set of people says, only devotion to Lord Krishna will give you salvation. Another set of people says, only if you are a Christian, worship Jesus Christ, you will reach heaven. Another set of people say, only if you are a Muslim and if you're devoted to Muhammad, you will reach salvation. All that is utter nonsense. You can choose the symbol that you want. But what matters is, when you choose a symbol, when you choose an idol, don't develop a fanatic attachment to that symbol and hate, dislike anybody else who worships something else. So the idol worshippers develop a fanatic attachment to the form. They do not grow spiritually. They are far from spiritual people. The idol worshippers who develop fanatic attachment are bane to every religion. They are far from truly religious. But you can choose your favorite idol, but in that process you conceive the idol beyond. That is what the true devotees do. When people go for pilgrimage, they travel thousands of miles to go to Tirupati or Vaishno Devi or any shrine for that matter. And when they get a chance, having waited in the queue, as you know, in India, queues can last anywhere between 1 hour to 5-10 hours, depending upon the occasion and season of festival. Having traveled such a long distance, having waited in the queue, and when they actually get an opportunity to get the vision, the darshan of their deity, what do the three devotees do? They close the palm and close their eyes to know that that God that I'm seeking is within. That is only an idol representing the ideal within. Just as national flag is a symbol, it is a logo of national consciousness. So when you salute the national flag, you are saluting the nation. That's only a piece of cloth. So if one particular country is in war with another country, what do? Sometimes they burn the enemy country's national flag to represent their hatred. But you salute the same national flag because of your devotion to the country. So that is the idol worshippers. And the third type of devotees are the ideal worshippers. So who are the ideal worshippers? What do the ideal worshippers do? Idol worshippers, IDLE, are superstitious. Idol worshippers, IDOL worshippers, are fanatic, develop an obsession. Ideal worshippers develop a true spirit of surrender, a true spirit of devotion. Surrender is a very essential mental disposition. Surrender is a very important discipline, attitude, emotional intelligence that every one of us need to learn. Because why do we need to develop surrender? When we go to a place of worship, be it temple, church, or mosque, or any place of worship, we pay our obeisance, we surrender, we bow down. Muslims perform namaz, Hindus prostrate. Whatever you do, it is an expression of surrender. So this attitude of surrender that you learn in the place of worship is not meant for the place of worship. The temple or your spiritual center is a training ground to develop this emotional intelligence called surrender. And when you learn that spirit of surrender, it will come to your aid in the boardroom, in the bedroom, in every arena of life. The spirit of surrender is not meant for only a set of religious people or spiritual people. It is something every one of us need to learn. Why do we need to learn? Because every one of us have knowledge and ignorance. We know many things. At the same time, we don't know many things. We have the ability to do many things, but having done what we need to do, we expect the consequences, the result. Result is not in our control. Result will depend upon our karma and the external circumstances. So having done your duty, whatever duties and responsibilities that you have, the result you got to surrender. Otherwise, you develop a sense of anxiety. So those people who learn to surrender don't go through anxiety while they were working. So when we experience the spirit of surrender and we surrender the consequences, result to your altar, your mind becomes peaceful and calm. You can perform the action effectively. In the area that you do not know, you got to surrender. Just as you cannot represent your legal issue, so you surrender to a lawyer to represent your legal matters. You do not know engineering, you surrender to an engineer, so also a doctor. In the area that you do not know, you got to surrender. And in life, there are many, many things that we don't know. We can plan for our future. We can do the right thing for our future, but there is no guarantee that you will get what you're planned for or what you're working for. And you can go through a sense of insecurity. And when you develop that spirit of surrender, you'll be protected. Imagine, take a hypothetical situation. Imagine yourself, your father who's very dear to you, and your best friend. All three of you are on a trekking expedition in the hill station in Drakensberg, maybe. And as you were trekking, it was a very happy mood, happy experience. Both your friend and your dear father, both of them stumbled upon the nest of poisonous vipers or black mambas. And both of them are bitten badly, stung by the black mambas, God forbid. And if you do not inject antivenom immediately, their lives are in danger. You have one shot of antivenom in your backpack. You have thoughtfully carried it. Only one shot of antivenom is enough for one person. And you have two people in front of you who's bitten by black mamba. Your father and your best friend. Your father, so dear to you, he sacrificed a lot for your life, for your upliftment. And your friend also, you know him for the last 10 years. Very dear, he also makes sacrifices. True friends are those who make sacrifices. Now both of them are bitten by the snake and you have one shot of antivenom. Whom will you inject that antivenom? Will you inject that antivenom to your father and ignore your dear friend? Or will you say, my father is past 65, he can afford to go, let me save my friend? Will you say that? I'm not seeking an answer. I want you to think. And I don't think you can answer that as well. The point that I'm trying to highlight, ladies and gentlemen, is that you go through many quandaries, situation like this, full of dilemmas. You don't know what course of action to do. We don't know what decision to take. That is where the spirit of surrender comes in. That is where your earnest, sincere devotion comes in. Help comes. Don't ask me why. How? When you surrender, you're protected from negative influences. What negative influences we will analyze right now? You all know the famous story, the story of Draupadi. Draupadi is one of the important characters in the Mahabharata. The wife of 5 Pandavas, one lady wedded to 5 brothers. Seems very paradoxical, but these stories are pregnant with deep spiritual meaning. They are not meant to be taken literally. I'm not going to the allegorical significance of the story of why one lady is wedded to 5 Pandavas. You can pick up the book called From Gods to Godhead, the meaning and purpose of Hindu gods, rituals, and festivals. Certain of these are explained there. But I want to bring your attention back to Draupadi, one of the most honorable women in the Mahabharata. She was dragged by Dushasana, one of the Pandavas, the second of the 100 Pandavas. Beg your pardon, Kauravas, the second brother of among the Kauravas. Dushasana dragged Draupadi by her hair, dragged her to the parliament in front of all the wise men. And she was attempted to be derobed by the evil Kauravas. And as she was overpowered by the evil Kauravas, her modesty was about to be destroyed. At that time, she struggled. All the men stood there and watched the helpless woman. And she clung on to her clothes. The more she clung on to her sari, the more she was overpowered by the evil Kaurava, Dushasana and the team. She was absolutely helpless. When she realized her helplessness, what did she do? She let loose her sari and prayed to Bhagavan Krishna, "Oh Bhagavan, please save me." Her sincere prayer was heard by Lord Krishna, and miracle happened, as it were. What happened? The sari became longer and longer and longer and longer. The more Kauravas pulled the sari, the longer it became. And they were they're tired. And eventually they let her go. Her modesty was protected. Now you might say, well, that sounds very mythological story. It may be. I don't know. Of course, Mahabharata has got a lot of reality. It's historical epic. But for you and me, as student of this culture, living in this life, you and me have a message for this. That when we are helpless, that is the time the spirit of devotion, the spirit of surrender must take over. But you cannot call God when you are helpless. Surrender has to be a continuous practice. It must be a daily, day-to-day routine. When you continuously practice the spirit of surrender, when you are in a situation where you're really, really helpless, help comes. That is what the parable is trying to convey. So also is the case with Sita. When she insisted, seeing the golden deer, Sita insisted that I want the deer. And her consort, Rama, said, my dear, that deer seems to be a dangerous deer. Don't ask for it. But as it happens very often in our household, the lady insisted, I want it. Rama has no choice. he left the kutir, the little hut that they made, in pursuit of deer. The more he pursued, the further deer receded. And when he realized that there is a foul play, he picked up the bow and arrow, and one shot, the deer was killed. And as the deer was shot down, as the deer was dying, cried out in the voice of Rama, Sita, Lakshmana. And Lakshmana had to rush. And Sita insisted he has to go. And that is the moment Ravana, the 10-headed monster, appeared to kidnap Sita. And before Lakshmana left, he drew the famous line, Lakshmana Rekha, and said, whatever happened, don't cross the line. But Sita made the grievous blunder of crossing the line. She became victim to Ravana, the 10-headed monster. And when Ravana kidnapped Sita to Lanka, she refused to accept any offerings Ravana made. She sat under Ashoka Vatika and single-pointedly concentrated on Rama, constantly chanting Ramanam. Nothing else she thought. With single-pointed devotion, she was devoted to Ram. Then came help in the form of Hanuman, came with the ring. Again, you might say it is a Puranic story, but ladies and gentlemen, what the message is that your spirit of surrender has got power. Don't underestimate the power, the influence of devotion. So the surrender protects you from your worst enemy. The spirit of devotion, bhakti, has the ability to protect you, defend you from your worst enemies in life. The only problem is you don't really know who are your enemies. You believe your enemies are your competitors who's trying to bring your downfall. You believe your enemies are your competitors, your challengers. But understand this, they are not your enemies. They are only shadows of your enemies. Those external enemies are only reflections of your true enemies. You got to think, who are your worst enemies? Where are they? What are they? You don't seem to know who your enemies are. Your spirit of devotion, bhakti, will protect you from your worst enemies. Ladies and gentlemen, your worst enemies are within you. The enemies that are bringing your downfall is within each one of you. It is between your 2 ears in the form of your thoughts and desires, negative thoughts and desires. No external enemies and competitors can cause harm to you as much as your negative thoughts, selfishness, and ego can cause. I repeat, no external enemies, competitors, rivals can cause more harm to you than your own ego, your own negative thoughts, your own selfish thoughts. They are the one bringing your downfall. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna tells us, 5th chapter, Uddhared atmanatmanam atmanam avasadayet atmanyev atmano bandhu atmaiva virupuratmanaha. Meaning, if you don't control yourself, first of all, he says, you got to lift yourself by yourself. Your own self is your friend if you have a control of your thoughts. If you don't have control of your thought, your own self is your enemy. The worst form of enemies are within you. So the spirit of devotion protects you from your selfishness and ego. It protects you from the influence of the negative influence of your past bad karma. Your past bad karma, you'll have to pay it for, of course. So when the effect of the bad karma occurs, when you have the spirit of devotion, you will suffer less from the effect of your bad karma. That's what matters. That is the protection. So we really need to understand what is true devotion. It is not mechanical rituals. Unfortunately, today, a lot of people, I would say vast majority of the people, understand devotion only in the sense of mechanical rituals, blind faith, superstitious belief. Take away all this, hardly any religious practices. Religion or devotion to God means much more than that. So the ideal worshipper, the ideal devotee, what do? Number one, surrender. What else do they do? Let us see what Bhagavan Krishna says in the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, 12th chapter, 13th verse.
Adveshta sarvabhutanam maitra karuna evacha nirmamo nirahankaraha samadukha sukha shami.
He says, by the way, the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is entitled Bhakti Yoga, that is the yoga of devotion. What is true devotion? One of the most fascinating chapters. In the 12th chapter, verses 13 to 20, Krishna enumerates 35 qualities of a devotee of God. He lists out 35 virtues of a bhakta, a devotee of God. Every single one of you must go back and read that section. I have given a series of lectures on this topic, 35 qualities of a devotee of God. What is true devotee? What is true devotion? Who is a true devotee? Those of you who are interested can go to the Life Mastery Foundation website, that is lifemastery.vision, and you can invest in the CD called Master Your Mind. It's an audio track discussing these 35 qualities. Master your mind. Therein, he explains the 35 qualities. The very first verse, that is the 13th verse of the chapter, that is what we just read out. Let us see what this verse says. Adveshta sarva bhutanam. He who hates no one. The very first quality of a devotee. What is true devotion? Ladies and gentlemen, there are two types of expression of devotion to God. One is called Bahiranga Sadhana, that is the external practices, external ritual. That's what most people do. Most people do the external practice of devotion to God, prayer, ritual, pilgrimages, etc. And they stop with that. That alone is not enough. The ideal worshippers, the ideal devotees do something more. And what do? He says, he who hates no being. A true devotee of God is one who does not entertain hatred towards anybody. That is the first word. Adveshta sarvabhutana means. Compare that to what is happening today. It is a disgrace for religious people because in the name of religion, in the name of devotion to God, there is so much of hatred in every religion. No religion is excluded. In the name of devotion to God, people entertain any amount of hatred, animosity, vindictiveness, and whole host of negative emotion. And yet, he says, a true devotee is one who does not entertain hatred. You come across situations in the religious institutions, in the temples. There is court battle going on for years together. In the name of God, in the name of religion. What religion is that? Nonsense. Far from it. Those people must get out of those religious institutions and temples and let true devotees take over. True devotion is absence of hatred. Bhakti should not create hatred in people. The moment there is dislike towards anybody, animosity or vindictiveness, due to a deity, God, temple, or any religious institution, that very moment spirituality ends there. Now, you might wonder, why is he saying he who does not hate? Why doesn't say he who loves everybody? Why does he put negatively? Because we don't understand what is true love. The moment the word love is mentioned, immediately the thought that flashes in our mind is a preferential affection to one or more individuals. That is far from love. Love and attachment are two different emotions. The moment we say love, people misunderstand love to mean a self-centered relationship towards one individual. That is not true bhakti. True bhakti means beyond, absence of hatred. Since we don't understand what is true love, but we all understand what hatred is. Every one of us have got somebody or the other we really cannot get along. It could be at workplace, it could be in the social circle, it could be at home. That is where our devotion to God begins. There is no point engaging in elaborate rituals and prayers and pilgrimages when we are not able to eliminate hatred within each one of us. That is bhakti. We don't understand what true love. We only understand infatuation. We only understand attachment. So he didn't want to confuse you. It's like this. Supposing I bring a basket full of marbles of two colors. You have red marbles and blue marbles. So in this basket full of marbles of two colors, red and blue, and I bring this basket in front of you and ask you, can you please help me to segregate all the red marbles from the mixture of red and blue marbles? And then you immediately tell me, oh, I'm so sorry, Angajanji, I'm color blind. I cannot see red color. I cannot see red color. Oh, is that so? Okay, don't worry. Remove all the blue marbles. Remove all the blue marbles. What remains is red color. You cannot see red. I understand. I can see red. So what you can see is blue marbles. Take away all the blue marbles. What remains red? Similarly, We don't understand what is pure love. Today you'll find speakers and philosophers and gurus and swamis talking about infinite love for God, unconditional love for a person, unconditional love for God. They are simply LBW, that is lovely bunch of words meaning nothing. It's simply words. Because what is unconditional love? What is infinite love? How can we understand infinite in the first place? But we do understand what hatred is. Find one person who did not experience hatred. So he says, get rid of what you know. What you know is hatred. Eliminate hatred. What remains is pure love. When you eliminate hatred, not only hatred, all the cousins of hatred. Who are all the cousins of hatred? Anger. When you get angry, there is an underlying hatred. When you're jealous towards somebody, there is underlying hatred. When you are envy, when you are fearful, all these negative emotions, the underlying emotion is hatred. Remove that. So hatred and all the expressions of hatred. Therefore, he says, Adveshta sarva bhutanam, absence of hatred is bhakti. In fact, this section, as I said, is one of the most fascinating sections, 35 virtues. You don't have to rack your brain learning all the 35 virtues, but a few, probably one or two or three of these qualities, and learn that 100%. And you find everything else become part of your personality. One who does not hate it is a true devotee. That is why what Bhagavad Gita is trying to convey is that it teaches you a technique that you can fight an enemy yet not hate him or her. It is an art. It is an emotional art. The ability to hate you, the ability not to hate your rival, your opponent, and still fight him. That is an art. If you take an offender to court, you have the right to take punitive measures to an offender, somebody who has done some harm to you, but you have no right to hate him. That is the message of the Bhagavad Gita. Remember, it is Arjuna who did not want to wage the Kurukshetra war. He laid down the weapons and appealed to Krishna, oh Krishna, I don't want to fight the war. I don't want to kill my own Guru Dronacharya, my grandfather Bhishma, and scores of men worthy of reverences assembled among the Kauravas. I can't fight and kill them. By doing so, every morsel of my food will be stained with the blood. These are all the words that Arjuna uses. He didn't want to fight. It is Krishna who empowered Arjuna with the philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita, and Krishna asked him to fight, do his duty as a Kshatriya, the warrior class. By the same breath, Krishna also told him, don't hate your enemy. Don't hate your opponent. The moment you hate your opponent, you become weak. I repeat, the moment you dislike, the moment you entertain dislike, hatred to your opponent, to your rival, they will manipulate you, they will control you. You are giving them opportunity to manipulate you. Ladies and gentlemen, what is the secret of Gandhi's invincibility? Did you ever think? Did you ever think, what is the secret of Nelson Mandela's power? Why was he able to endure the difficulties and challenges, make himself indomitable against the white apartheid government? Why Gandhi was invincible against the British government in India? There are so many great men worthy of reverence like that in India, like Subhash Chandra Bose and so many others. Unfortunately, many of them are not given enough credit like they did to Gandhi. Gandhi is not the only one who brought freedom for India. So Nelson Mandela is not the only one. There was scores of other great men sacrificed their life for the freedom for the country. But what made Gandhi outstanding is that he did not hate the British. Why Nelson Mandela was invincible is because he did not hate apartheid government. That is why he had the magnanimity. When he was given freedom after 27 years in the prison, he had the magnanimity to reconcile, to forgive. The moment you hate your enemy, it makes you weak. They will manipulate you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure all of you or most of you watch cricket or some sport or the other, especially cricket. If you haven't noticed what I'm going to talk to you, next time when you watch cricket, your favorite team, observe this. As you know, in cricket, there is this unacceptable practice called sledging. Almost every team uses. It is unethical. It's illegal code of conduct, but it's not easy to punish them. So usually what the bowling team does to the batsman, especially the bowler, is that they sledge him, call him names, insinuate him, provoke his enmity, provoke his antipathy. And when the batsmen react to his sledging, what happens? He loses his focus. As you know, a game like cricket needs a lot of concentration. The bowler comes bowling at an incredible speed, sometimes 140, 145, 148 kilometers per hour speed. At that speed, when the ball comes, if you don't know how carefully place your bat as a batsman, you can get out many ways or you can get injured. So you need a lot of concentration. So the bowling team or the bowler specifically try to sledge and destroy your concentration. And you find when they continuously sledge him and he takes over his emotion, he reacts emotionally, his hatred comes up and invariably he gets out. That is not the right sportsmanship. True sportsmen don't do that. Sachin Tendulkar, why is he considered such a great batsman, master blaster? Remember, there are so many other players with equal or more skill than Tendulkar. And yet he has broken many records. The reason is, watch him next time when you can't watch him live anymore, but you can go to YouTube or other medium to watch his batting skills. When the bowler tried to sledge him, he refused to react. Either he turns his attention away, doesn't look at him, or even he looks at him, he refused to react. He refused to allow his hatred to manifest. The moment you allow the other person, or the moment you entertain hatred, you are giving him a chance to manipulate you. They manipulate you emotionally. Don't allow that. That is what Krishna told Arjuna. Don't hate your enemy. Because the moment you hate, you become weak. They will overpower you. That is what Gandhi did. Passive resistance. You can fight your enemy without hatred. You can take your opponent to court. When you are in the court, your lawyer, your advocate is arguing your case, carefully examine. Are you entertaining your hatred? Or if the lawyer is entertaining hatred towards the opponent, he's weak. The secret of invincibility is absence of hatred. So when Bhagavan Krishna talks about bhakti, devotion, it is not just a religious practice that you practice in the temple. Yes, of course you can practice there. It is something very much practical in our day-to-day life. And one of the most prominent emotions is hatred. Therefore, he tells us, Adveshta sarva bhutanam, he who does not hate anybody, any being, not only human, even other creatures. Very carefully, when you go back, take about turn and examine your soul and find out, are you entertaining hatred towards somebody? And invariably, the answer will be affirmative. The moment you entertain hatred, that very moment you become weak, you lose your energy. Therefore, Adveshta, one who does not hatred. So devotion to God, it is a feeling of endearment, a feeling of affection. When the feeling of affection is directed to something higher, it is called devotion. When the same feeling of affection or endearment is directed something towards lower, it is called love. Love and devotion are of the same nature, same feeling of endearment. It's not different. It's the feeling of affection when it's directed towards higher. It is called devotion. Like we say, you are devoted to your parents. You're devoted to country. You're devoted to God. But the same feeling of affection is directed towards lower. It is called love. We say we love our pet, our dog, or any other pet. We love our furniture, but we don't say we are devoted to our pet, although some people are. The feeling is the same, but the direction matches. Therefore, devotion to God is to eliminate hatred. And the worst form of hatred is when you develop that dislike in the name of a religion, in the name of a temple, in the name of a deity, in the name of a higher cause. There's hardly any religion there. And when you entertain hate, when you do not entertain hatred, there is energy, there is Shakti. When the mind is surrendered to a higher ideal, there is Shakti, there is power. Imagine, in a factory, there are thousands of workers, let's say a couple of thousand workers, and there is a union leader. When the union leader, just imagine the situation. When the union leader is approaching his boss for a personal favor, something he wants for himself, maybe a hike in the salary, or it could be a few days holiday, something for himself. So when he's approaching his boss in his cabin, asking for a personal favor, how does he approach the boss? What will be his style? He's weak. First of all, he would ask the secretary and say, how is his mood today? Is he in a good mood? Did he come to work with, quarreling with his wife, in a bad mood or whatever? And as he opened the door and looks at him, if he's in a good mood, and as he's presenting his case, he fumbles and falters. He doesn't have the courage. He makes mistakes. A week later, the same union leader is approaching the same boss. This time he's approaching the boss representing the interest of the entire 2,000 employees that are working in that company. When he's representing the interest of 2,000 employees in the company, what will be the attitude when he's approaching the boss? Will he say, yes sir, 3 bags full, sir? What will be his attitude? He has got the courage. He's got the passion. He's on top of the world. He's on fire. He doesn't experience the fear and insecurity. He's not nervous. Why? Where does that Shakti, where does that courage come from? That courage comes from his surrender. His mind is surrendered to the interest of larger number of people. When the mind is surrendered to the interest of larger number of people, he develops that courage. So therefore, surrender gives you Shakti, power, energy. Love gives you Shakti. That is why from time immemorial, we have been chanting the mantra that Madhava Seva, Manava Seva. Devotion to God is devotion to people. Love for God is love for humanity. There is no point in we claiming our devotion to God when we hate people. On the other hand, forget about your devotion to God. Develop feeling of affection, feeling of sacrifice for our fellow men. When we genuinely help serve our fellow men, it is far superior than sitting in the temple, engage in prayers and rituals and entertaining hatred within. Yes, without hatred, you can perform your rituals, etc. That is the power of devotion. That is the power of surrender. So therefore, devotion has got power. Devotion has got Shakti to transform your life. Devotion has got Shakti to influence millions of people like Gandhi did. Devotion has got power to transform a country like Nelson Mandela did. Devotion has got Shakti to transform the lives of poor people like Mother Teresa did. Similarly, scores of great men and women has used this power called devotion to transform. That brought about Shakti. That is the power of devotion. Now, tomorrow, I'll be talking about the power of jnana, knowledge. We have spoken about the power of karma the second day. We spoke about the power of bhakti, devotion, the power of knowledge, jnana. Tomorrow at 7 o'clock, same place, same time, we will see you. We'll conclude with the Shanti part. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamataya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you very much.
Thank you to Sri M.K. Angajan for a thought-provoking discourse. The Bhagavad Gita is a complicated text, which tonight was simplified in a way that we can practically execute in our daily lives. Since this was a mere taste of the world of Vedanta and the art of living, he has made several books and CDs available for purchase. If you would like more information, we've included our contact details in the description box below. At the start, I mentioned the Life Mastery Foundation. This is a registered PBO which was founded 16 years ago by Sri M.K. Angajan. This foundation is dedicated to the dissemination of higher human values and philosophical and cultural education to society. If you would like to learn more, please visit our website in the description box below. This July, we hosted a lecture in honor of Guru Purnima on Facebook Live. The key definition which enlightened me was the difference between your guru and your teacher. Whilst your teacher explains the world and its nature to you. Your guru explains your nature to yourself. Thus, by the grace of God, you find your guru, and through your guru, you are able to find God. So for those of you who would like to pay obeisance or Guru Dakshina to our Guru, Sri M.K. Angajan, please follow the link in the description box below. If you enjoyed tonight's live stream, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on all social media platforms. We will be releasing free learning material, including inspiring videos about our scriptures and mastering the self. We would like to thank you for joining us this evening, and a special thank you to all the temple devotees who are listening in. Please join us and share the link with your loved ones for tomorrow's discourse as we commemorate the final day of Gita Week discourses. We will be streaming on YouTube Live tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. Thank you once again for joining us. Namaste.